Welcome to the Honest Healing Podcast, real talk for cycle breakers. I'm your host, Katie Delamon. If you're ready to speak up, set boundaries, heal your nervous system, and build better relationships, you're in the right place. Because you don't need to be perfect to heal. You just need to be honest. Let's go. Welcome to episode 19 of the Honest Healing Podcast. 4 phrases that shut kids down and what to say instead. In today's episode, I'm joined by the amazing conscious parenting coach, Amelia Reed. You may know her on Instagram as That Intentional Mama. She has over 400,000 followers, and every single one of her video goes viral. I don't have kids myself, and I don't plan on having kids, but I binge watch her content. It's so good. It's filled and backed by science, neuroscience, and is all about emotional regulation and nervous system regulation. If you are a parent who's ever thought, I'm exhausted, why won't they listen to me? Or why is every morning a nightmare? Or I don't want to yell, but it keeps happening. Or I want to parent differently than I was parented. This episode is for you. We talk about the neuroscience behind why kids tune you out and what you can say instead. So there are 4 common phrases that I heard when she said it. I was like, oh my goodness, I grew up hearing all those phrases, but what you can say, just little small tweaks of your language and how you can put reflective questions in your day to day and add more connection in the chaos. So when we prioritize connection over control, it's always a win-win situation for us as well as the child or whoever we're dealing with. She talks about the help trap and why kids actually feel and get stuck when we try to help them too much. Morning rituals that you can do to make it less messy. And we also talk about a very popular topic, sibling rivalry. I don't want to give too much away, so let's jump right in. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, Amelia. Thank you so much for coming
Hi.
on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, and I don't have kids, full disclosure, and I don't plan on having kids, but I believe your work is so important. And I told you the other day, I was binge watching your stuff because I
Thank
mean, the base, you just talked about it, the basis and the foundation of what you do is emotional regulation. And
you.
whether
Hmm.
you are a parent or not a parent, the foundation of everything you teach and preach is going to filter into all areas of your life, which is so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. That's so true.
Yeah. And so can you just tell us a little bit on what got you into doing this conscious parenting?
Yeah, yeah, it's such a great question. I started off as a nanny. I've been nannying for as long as I can remember, honestly. I really started off as a babysitter at a very young age. And then I went into nannying, and just as I got older and got more seasoned in my career, I just started noticing how much behavior was affected by the way that we show up as adults in our children's lives, and in the lives of the children that I was caring for. And so really one thing just kind of led to another, and I started working with parents on emotional regulation and showing up differently so that their children's behavior changed, and so that they could just have a more connected relationship with their kids. Long term, I could kind of see different things happening with different families that I worked with, mostly positive, where they were deeply connected with their kids and how that was shifting things for them. And so, yeah, I just got really interested in it from that kind of standpoint, and have been kind of working with families and kids and all of this for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump right in because I do know a lot of mamas, and the mornings are the craziest, which I'm sure you know. So, the
Yeah,
most essential or like the most stressful time for parents is lunches and lost shoes and tantrums and time pressure. How can parents
yeah.
begin to turn that chaos into connection in the morning?
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, that morning chaos is just like a pressure cooker, right?
Tornado.
But what's really happening underneath that chaos is oftentimes just a nervous system mismatch. Everyone is trying to get out the door at the same time, and there's so many instructions being thrown at our kids and things that have to happen in a line and everything just to get our kids out the door. It's definitely not an easy time of day. But what I like to remind parents is that a moment of connection can really shift everything for you and for your kids. So that can look like, 30 seconds of just making eye contact or offering a gentle touch or a snuggle or simply just saying like, hey, good morning, I'm so excited to see you today, I'm so glad to be here with you. And not really worry so much about fixing the logistics and getting shoes on but at a certain point, or laying out clothes the night before. Although those things can be helpful, you really want to work on anchoring that energy through connection first.
Yeah, I love that little simple poignant touch. Like it just
Yeah.
matters so
Yeah.
much. And so what's like one or two practical rituals that can help regulate both the parents and the children or the child before
Yeah.
leaving the house? Is it just that little, 30-second connection or multiple ones that you can find?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are so many different ways to find connection and to kind of build little things into your routine in the morning. Two things I really like to do. One is largely about bodily awareness and kind of modeling connection with your kid or modeling emotional regulation with your child. And that's just doing kind of a body check-in together and making that a morning ritual. Every morning we wake up together and we check in. How's your body feeling? Let's get our bodies ready for the day, right? And take a moment to just even have a deep box breath or two, and ground into a moment. And that will also offer co regulation for your child, which will just be even more beneficial before that morning chaos hits. And then I think another thing that's really beneficial is just having a predictable moment of connection, right? So for younger kids, having them know that once they're ready to get out the door, before you shut the door, you're going to give them that snuggle every day, or you're going to give them a kiss. You're going to stop and check in with them at a point in the middle of the chaos, right? And they can predict that, and they know that that opportunity for connection is on its way. Will really be beneficial and can help their nervous system. That kind of ritual can kind of help cue safety for them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost this idea of them expecting that connection as well. So
Yeah.
they,
Hmm.
they actually look forward to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll reflect on this throughout, but I actually use a lot of these techniques with my husband, with,
Hmm.
it will, you've said some of your clients use it at work. Like me and my
Yes.
husband, when anybody comes in the house, we always kiss each
Hmm.
other. Right before bed, we always
Yeah.
kiss each other. Right before dinner, we
Yeah.
always kiss each other. Like we always have these bids for connection.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Hmm.
it's people think it's these really big things that matter in relationships. It's
Right.
these small little moments that
Yeah.
really count. And so, yeah, I
Definitely.
love that little, just, little moments that you can add in that
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. I love that you do that. And I think too, for kids, predictability is so important. And predictability also can cue safety for their nervous system. And so having both of those things together is really beneficial.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of predictability, we're going to go to sibling rivalry and the
Yeah.
attention
It's a big
battles
one.
because yeah, it's
Yeah.
inevitable. Look, it doesn't matter if
Hmm.
it's two boys, two girls, a girl and a boy, what age difference. It's going to
Nope.
happen. We're
Yeah.
humans. And when there's fighting, sharing issues, or constant competition, what's really going on beneath the surface?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I feel like, when it comes to sibling rivalry, it's not always about the toys or the initial conflict at hand or the behavior that's presenting itself. It's oftentimes about belonging, right? Kids are constantly checking in and asking themselves, do I actually matter, right? And what is my place in this family? Where do I belong? And beneath that conflict is often a need for reassurance and a reassurance for a secure attachment. And so when parents are able to look at the behavior and see the need and find the root underneath the behavior, they can respond with empathy instead of punishment and help build the skill that might be missing in order to navigate that specific battle or challenge that's going on between the siblings.
Yeah, absolutely. And this question actually wasn't on my list that I sent you beforehand,
Mm,
but I just know there's a lot of parents out there who they are doing maybe more a lot of the emotional regulation work, but maybe their partner isn't. And
yeah.
so isn't that very conflicting for a child because they're probably wanting that secure attachment with the other adult, but they
Yeah.
may never get it. So if you are the
Yeah.
partner, this could be, maybe off your own topic of parenting.
Yeah.
This might be more like a
Yeah.
divorce lawyer situation.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
as a parent who, is doing the work and wanting to have more emotional regulation, and your partner is not a willing participant, do you
Mhm.
like, is there any, anything that you would say as far as that goes? Because I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of times, yeah, that child might have a secure attachment with one, but not the other.
Sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, unfortunately, we can't control our partner, right? And we can't, unfortunately and fortunately, but we can't make somebody do something, and if that's not something that they are really willing to work on, then unfortunately, that's you're just kind of in that situation. What I can say is that in regards to a secure attachment and what that emotional regulation and co-regulation can help build between a child and a parent is that secure attachment. And when it comes down to that, we really only need one secure attachment in life to reap the benefits of it. So even if it's actually not coming from a parent, there is a neuroscientist, Dr. James Doty, who writes an entire book really about this and how he found a secure attachment through co-regulation and also through mindfulness with this woman who owned a magic shop down the street from him, and he had a very toxic upbringing, and his parents struggled with some substance abuse and things like that, and so he did not have that secure attachment at home. But he really relates to his success and his abilities in life to this woman at the magic shop who he felt he had a very secure attachment with. So really, generally speaking, you don't have to have a secure attachment with both of your parents. It's definitely beneficial. And I think as children of parents, I think we are always seeking that and we do want that, kind of biologically speaking. But to reap the benefits of it, we don't necessarily have to have it from both parents.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for bringing that. And I love that
Yeah.
neuroscientist. He's so amazing.
Yeah, he's the best. I know. I've read like all of his books and I watch him on every podcast that he's on. He's so interesting.
Yeah, and I'm obsessed with anything mindfulness. So he's just like up
Yes.
there. Him and Tara Schwartz, I love her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference between solving a sibling conflict and coaching through it? And how can parents know when to step back in and when to
Mhm.
actually just completely step back?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And I think something that I find myself talking often about with the parents that I work with, and even just parents on Instagram. Everyone is kind of, curious about this. And the difference between solving and coaching is that solving is really about fixing the problem. And truthfully, it's a little bit of putting a band-aid on a problem, right? Coaching is about teaching the emotional intelligence that a child needs through the situation at hand, giving them the tools that they're going to need in order to be able to face this independently on the future in the future. And when you coach, you're really working on slowing things down, helping each child name what they feel, guide them to practice repair, understand their needs, all of these things that will essentially build lifelong skills, not just immediate quiet or immediate peace, right? It's more about giving them the skills and the structure that they're going to need in order to navigate it on their own in the future, which is truthfully what all of us parents want
Mm,
to see our kids be able to do, whether it's with a sibling or even a friend at school. When we work with them through a coaching lens versus solving it for them, we're able to teach them those skills. In terms of knowing when to step in and when to step back, I think there are definitely moments where stepping in is appropriate. Of course, if safety is a concern, if somebody is getting hurt or potentially going to get hurt, you definitely always want to step in. I think that we can step in the sense of stepping in through a coaching or supportive lens and helping them find the words that they need by asking reflective questions in the moment. Um, is really beneficial. But I think, stepping in the sense of just coming in and fixing the problem and saying, like, here, you take the toy, you go play with this, right? That is just going to put a band-aid on the situation. So I don't think that there's ever really a time where stepping in is not appropriate. I think it's more so of how you step in. That is where we kind of draw the line. And I always will support stepping in from a coaching standpoint and guiding them to collaboration and working together on the solution.
Yeah, I think those reflective questions are actually what stuffs up parents' ability the most because they don't know those questions to ask,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so getting familiar, I think, with reflective questions is probably like a
Yeah.
really key thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think intentional parenting in general just happens more so outside of parenting than it does
yeah,
in the parenting moments, and so taking moments to really reflect and learn skills like that and think about things that you could be asking to support our kids in learning the skills that they need is definitely really powerful because it's very true that parents just don't know what to say, and I think that's why scripts can be so helpful in the moment. But if you're able to kind of come up on those on your own outside of those stressful moments, then it's more available in the stressful moment.
exactly. It's the emotional language, emotional literacy that most of us, one,
Hmm.
didn't have growing up. And then if we're not having those types of conversations with our coworkers, with our friends, with our
Yeah.
partners, if we're not
Hmm.
having these emotional conversations with them, how are we going to have them with our children? Like,
Yeah, yeah, we
it's
got to
just
normalize it, right? You got to be doing
exactly.
it, practicing it, and trying it in different ways and inside and outside of the moment with different people and things like that in order for it to come naturally and to feel organic and to feel easy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you gotta normalize it for sure.
Yeah. And you don't have to be
Yeah.
a psychologist in order to understand reflective questions.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of, this segues back into my next section,
Yeah.
regulating parenting in action. So you talk
Yeah.
about regulating or regulated parents. Can you describe what
Mhm.
that actually looks like in a real world moment of chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that there's a big misconception that regulated is just like perfectly calm and peaceful all the time, right? And when it comes to parenting, regulation is messy but conscious, right? So
Mhm.
it is the parent who says, "Ooh, I'm starting to feel frustrated. I'm just going to take a beat here and take a deep breath before I respond to this." Or taking a pause and saying, "Gosh, I need a minute because I feel like I'm going to respond in a way that I wouldn't be proud of." Right. And so that pause and that modeling will help kind of rewire the pattern. Um, Regulated parenting is not about being calm all the time. It's more so about noticing when you're not and being able to repair faster and come back down to that calm space quicker than maybe before.
Yeah, that's exactly what it means to be a regulated human. I try
Yeah.
to like emphasize this to my clients all the time. Like,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be calm all the time. Like,
No,
stress
that
is
was kind
gonna,
of freaky.
exactly. Like, that would also
Yeah.
mean like you're probably disassociated, which is not
Yes. Yeah.
regulation.
The
It's
absolute
avoidance.
opposite. You want to be in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the
Uh-huh.
times there's going to be, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, shutdown
Yeah.
coming up, but it's about
Yes.
noticing and then giving yourself what you need in that moment. And
Yeah.
we know that children do not listen, they watch, like they
Yes.
watch.
Yeah, they're paying attention. And I think that modeling of, again, you're normalizing regulation and that we as adults also need regulation, which I think is so powerful for our kids to see. Because oftentimes when our kids are met with these big emotions, they feel very isolated, like I'm alone. I must be the only one in the world who has this feeling. And when they can hear us in stressful moments saying, "Ooh, I'm having this big feeling. I'm just going to take a minute here." We're normalizing that everybody has all of the feelings, right? No feelings are bad. They're just here to tell us something. And so that gives you an opportunity to show your kid, like, hey, you're not alone. Even when you're feeling mad, like I have these mad moments too. And this is how I handle them.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like when we scream and yell and we do things that we are not proud of, It's that
Mhm.
that the repair after the rupture and
Yeah,
saying, look, I am human, and apologize where you can, but showing them that we all
absolutely.
make mistakes and that
Yeah.
nobody's going to get kicked out of the tribe because of that mistake.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
being real instead of being trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's like you,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to be friends with somebody who's perfect. Why would you want to be perfect yourself? Like it's
Yeah.
first of all impossible. Second of all, it's actually not attractive.
Right.
But
Right.
yet,
There's something very odd about it and very disassociated and disconnected
eh,
about it. And I think you're right. Like coming back to that repair is so crucial, and it teaches our kids like, hey, we can make mistakes in relationships, and that doesn't mean that the relationship has ended. It just means that there's been a bump in the road, and now we know each other a little bit better after knowing whatever it was that caused the situation, and we can move from here.
yeah. So what are some small doable ways to model regulation when you're still learning it yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I think the most beautiful way to model regulation when you're learning it yourself is literally just to practice it in front of your child. Your child is going to be climbing all over you or doing whatever they're doing, right? And if you are stepping into a moment of practicing regulation, even if it's outside of a stressful moment, just practicing it to get it feel to, to get it to feel safe in your body and to get um, understand the awareness, right, that you need in order to kind of move through the day, right? I think practicing it in front of your child is super powerful, and it doesn't have to be this big ritualistic type of thing. I think oftentimes, even on social media, we see people who are like, I get up before my kids every morning and I have coffee and I journal for 2 hours. And realistically, a lot of parents are co-sleeping or, up with the baby in the middle of the night and have a toddler. And it's messier than that, right? So I think taking those just little moments of pausing to regulate in front of your child is enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we're going to go into the listening aspect. So you have the
Yeah.
four phrases that shuts kids' attention down, and then you've got four other
Mhm.
phrases that really help kids pay more attention, which I've loved.
Yeah.
Do you want
Yeah.
to share more about that on those
Sure.
phrases?
Yeah. Yeah. So the phrases that can really shut your child's listening kind of receptors down, that these are not the only phrases,
Yeah.
right? But these are phrases that we hear often, that parents say often. And they are, how many times do I have to tell you? If I told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. Why are you not listening to me? And you never listen to me, right?
Mm,
I think it's so important to understand that it's not defiance when our kids tune us out, right? It's neuroscience. It's how their brain works. They're wired to tune us out when they hear these types of phrases. When these phrases are repeated or carry some type of emotional charge or tone, the brain's stress system, the amygdala, right, will flag off and fire the alarms and say, this is non essential or this is totally threatening. And we end up filtering it out as white noise. And the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making and reasoning, just goes completely offline in those moments. So the more we repeat, the less the brain listens. And instead of repeating, we can use these phrases that I call headphones off phrases that will cue the brain to really orient towards connection, which will lead to cooperation, which is what we're looking for when we're asking our kid to listen to us. So those phrases sound a lot more inviting, and we want to shift our tone when we use these phrases. But the three phrases that I typically encourage families and parents to say are, "Hey, I need your eyes for a second," or "When you're ready, I have something important to say," or "Can I ask for your help on something?" These phrases will actually activate the attention networks rather than the defense networks that say, I'm not here for it. And your child will then feel safer rather than shamed. And because of that, they will be able to cooperate more effectively.
yes, love that. Okay, so now the help trap. we as
Yeah.
parents, we know that our anxiety becomes their anxiety. And
Hmm.
and you talk about the help trap. What is it and
Yeah.
how do well-intentioned parents fall into it?
Yeah. It's
There's,
so easy. I think oftentimes our well-intentioned parents fall into it out of their own internal fear, right? The help trap is when our parents step in too quickly to fix or rescue, again, without building the skill or allowing for our child to have any type of awareness about their own body or their own boundaries within their body, right? It's loving and we mean well, but it can rob kids of these micro moments of building resilience and bodily awareness, which are the things that we want them to have when they're climbing big ladders on the playground and jumping off of rocks and doing all of these things that our kids are naturally going to want to do. Um, so it's very easy to get into, and I think that when we look at parents who are doing this, they're often parenting from a place of fear rather than intention.
yeah. And so how can parents empower the kids to problem solve without feeling like they're abandoning them?
Yeah, yeah. So I think we can still be near our children when they're doing engaging in risky play. And we can say like empowering phrases like, "Hey, I believe that you can handle this. I'm right here if you need support." Or ask questions, more reflection questions. Ask them to check in with your body. Hey, where's your foot gonna go next? Right? When you're climbing this rock structure. Or oh, did you notice that there's an edge right there on the side next to you? There's a pretty big drop right there. Did you notice that? And we're not necessarily instructing them on how to get up, right? But we're giving them the opportunity to learn the skill of checking in with their body, which is exactly what we need in order for our kids to feel confident and resilient.
Yep. Yep, I love it. This is like, it's crazy how much it just goes into all the work I do with adults.
Yeah, yeah, it filters
Yeah.
in. Well, and
Yeah.
when you think about it, your nervous system was built as a child, right? And
Yeah.
it was built through your life experiences. And so it makes total sense that if we don't get support and we don't rewire some of our systems growing up, then as adults, we also deal with the same challenges.
Yeah. I always wonder because, like, my mom in particular, especially, I don't know if it was her form of sort of stepping back and not wanting to be responsible, but anytime we came to her with like an issue, whether it was small or big,
Mm.
her response was always like, I can't tell you what to do. Like, you have to figure it
Mm,
out on your own. She was very much
interesting.
about that self-reliance.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
but I always knew that like if I messed up or I failed, like it's okay. Like I still had that safe
Yeah,
space. I mean, we had our fair share of dysfunction in the household, absolutely.
sure,
But I
sure.
really feel like she emphasized that self-reliance piece. And I feel like that is a
Yeah,
huge part on like my parents never tried to fix any of our problems. You know, if
yeah.
we messed
That's
up,
huge.
we messed up. We had to take that
Yeah,
responsibility. And so
yeah,
yes. I don't know, like I said, if it was like a lack of not wanting that responsibility or if it was like,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to teach you some.
Intentional.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
regardless. Okay,
yeah,
so speaking of confidence and
mhm,
self-assessment, you teach something called that self-assessment method. How can parents use this
yeah.
to help kids reflect on their own behaviors and feelings?
Yeah, yeah, this is so huge. And the video that I shared in relation to this method, I think is so powerful. And this dad just does such an incredible job with it. But it's really one of my favorite tools because it shifts feedback from correction to connection. Most parents jump straight into telling their kids like, what went wrong? You weren't listening. You need to try harder. That's not how we do it, right? And while it's all very well intentioned, it oftentimes puts the brain into the defensive mode. And of course, when a child hears criticism, their amygdala again activates and shuts down the prefrontal cortex, and then they're incapable. They can't learn when we're trying to teach them whatever the right way of doing X, Y, and Z is. So the self-assessment feedback method really flips that dynamic. So instead of leading with evaluation, you're inviting the child to reflect first in three simple steps, basically asking them to evaluate the situation at hand, like, hey, how do you think that went, or did that turn out the way that you wanted to, right? And give them a moment to look back on the situation and reflect on the moment, and then give process focused guidance. So focusing on how they approach something. What was the process? Can you focus on that instead of just whatever the outcome was and what they got wrong? And then celebrating their awareness and their effort. So even if they don't, um, even if the outcome was not the intended outcome, if they worked through it and if the process was aligned with how they could, get that outcome in the future, then we're going to praise that process. Wow, you worked really hard on that. You studied so hard for that test. You really, really took your time on it, right? Even if they didn't get that A that they were hoping for. Um, that is going to shift them into more of a growth mindset, and give them that opportunity to self assess and the ability to really think about their own thinking and reflect on the way that they're showing up.
And that kind of reminds me of how we overuse good girl and good boy
Yeah,
in our parenting
yeah, those
skills.
labels.
Yeah, instead of, commenting on their being responsible and being, hardworking, it is they're good or they're bad.
Yeah.
Well, or we just use good. We don't necessarily say bad. I mean, some parents might say bad boy, bad girl,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's this
right.
overuse of the good, which then we internalize that our productivity um, is our worth just by being good
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
technically bad.
That's
So
absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so for the big picture, conscious parenting in a busy world, because there's going to be so many people to say, well, I just don't have time for that. For the
Yeah.
parents who want to raise emotionally intelligent kids but feel overwhelmed by daily life,
Hmm.
where should they start?
Yeah. I'm going to say it. I've said it, I feel like a million times
Mm,
in this
yeah,
episode, but start with self regulation.
yeah.
You can't pour from an empty nervous system. I think when our babies are little, we have this saying in our head consistently of like, you can't pour from an empty cup. You hear sayings like, sleep when the baby sleeps, help the mother, right? And all of these things. But then for some reason, that shifts at some point, and our children get a little bit older and our babies grow into toddlers, and then suddenly we feel like we have to deplete ourselves in order to serve our kids. And that's really not going to be beneficial for anyone. And it's going to keep you on a hamster wheel of stress and overwhelm. And if we don't get back to a place of calm and regulated emotions and a regulated state, then we're not going to be able to continue to pour from that space. And so, I always like to think that like one calm adult can really shift the family dynamic. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be this morning ritual of waking up before your child wakes up and journaling for an hour or meditating for 35 minutes and having your coffee in peace. It doesn't have to look like that. We can build in these tiny micro moments throughout the day where we stop and we reflect, we check in with our body and take a deep breath and work to regulate. Um, and that again is just going to trickle into normalizing that for your child and letting them know that this is how we deal with big emotions.
Yeah, knowing your capacity. I think this is the biggest one, especially for women.
Hmm.
We can do a lot. We can,
Yeah.
but we don't have the capacity to, but we think that we do. We're like, but I can do it
Hmm.
all. And it's like, well, yes, you can,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean you
But what are you
should.
sacrificing?
And what are you
Yeah.
sacrificing? Like, the new mom wants to make everything organic and everything this and wants to like make
Mm.
everything
Yeah.
perfect. And it's like, that's great that
Yeah.
you care about your child and all that stuff. Like we're not knocking that,
Hmm.
but what do you
Totally.
actually have the capacity for? And is not having organic food going to be that much of it? Like, it's
Yeah.
really understanding like where to pull back a bit,
Hmm.
where to, building your own capacity because yeah, and unfortunately in society, women are taught that self-sacrifice is worthiness. So
Right.
it's definitely a societal thing. I don't think it's,
For sure.
yeah, I think it's much more societal. But what's one
Yeah.
belief about parenting you wish every mom could release today?
Yeah. I think really just that intentional or conscious parenting means being perfect. right? It's not about being perfect. It's really more so about awareness, repair, and actively choosing connection over control, even when something doesn't go right.
Mhm.
Um, and I think to add to what you just said, we don't have to show up 120% every single day for our kids. It's not what they need from us, right? That's going to lead to burnout. That's going to lead to resentment and feelings of overwhelm. And if that means that today your kid's having frozen chicken nuggets, then that's what that means today, right? But you also get that extra 10 minutes to sit and connect with them because lunch didn't take you 45 minutes to make. Beautiful. That's a win, right? You don't have to do everything perfectly in order for the benefits of connection to really be there.
Yeah. And I would just like to add in that the only person judging you as a mom is you.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
nobody
It's so
actually
true.
cares if you
No,
give your child chicken nuggets. And maybe
literally no
somebody
one.
makes, no, no one. If somebody makes a slight little comment, they will forget about it in
They're
two
probably,
seconds because they're
yeah,
gonna then worry about themselves again. Like
yes, yeah,
we're nobody's savior and
totally.
nobody cares about us as much as we care about ourselves, or at least we should
Yeah,
anyway. You know?
it's so true. It's so true.
Okay, so now you are a coach to many wonderful parents and humans. Can you give us a real life example? You don't have to give us any names on someone that
Yeah,
you've worked with and you helped them with something really small, but it made a really big difference in their life or their child's life
yeah,
or their family life or maybe their work life.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think, I recently had a client who has been working deeply on building his own emotional awareness in order to help his kids understand their emotions. And I actually had a client recently who shared that he had been learning some skills about awareness through coaching with me and working together, and he was able to implement them in a work setting, which it was like, it was so unexpected. I've been, really intentionally trying to practice these skills with my children. And then it just naturally came up in a work environment, which is what happens, right? We start thinking about it more often and then it becomes more available to us. And so he basically was able to show up in a work situation for somebody who really needed a shoulder to lean on and somebody to listen to him and authentically listen to him and not necessarily provide advice or their own input and their own story to kind of relate to him. He just really needed someone to authentically listen to him. And so, in building his own emotional awareness and understanding what that need could look like and how it could present itself in somebody else, he was able to really show up authentically, listening to this coworker. And the coworker ended up saying something to him later about how effective and beneficial it was. So, I think
Yeah,
that it definitely can trickle into other parts of life, and it's not just about parenting.
yeah. And was that like active listening, what we would say in mindfulness?
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
do you call it
Yeah.
something else?
Reflective listening or
Mm,
active listening. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're both the same. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And can you just
Mm.
tell us a little bit about that for anybody out there who doesn't
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, 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 for sure. So it's basically just hearing what somebody has to say and reflecting those words back to them, right? In a validating tone. And so it's less about, I think oftentimes in human nature, somebody tells us a story and we're automatically, we jump quickly to say, "Oh my gosh, that happened to me. I totally know how that feels." And we think that we're being validating, but actually it can feel invalidating for the person telling the story. And so it's a lot of practicing just actively listening and hearing what the person has to say, as well as understanding what the needs underneath what they're saying might be, and listening without judgment.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a great way to end. So thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your expertise. Can you tell my audience how to find you, how to connect with you, and how to become a more conscious, regulated parent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at that intentional mama. There is a link in my bio to book a call with me and chat about your family's challenges. You can also always DM me. Yeah, and I hope to see you over there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Honest Healing Podcast. I hope that you remember that there is no such thing as perfect parenting, but there is such a thing of regulated parenting or being a regulated human, even if you're not a parent. Because once you start to change, your whole world, your whole home changes. Life is not about doing more, it's about being more. And the environment around you responds to your energy and how you're being, not what you're doing. And I hope this episode sort of shined a light more onto that, on how all of the regulation starts with you. And this is not to put all the pressure on you, but it's, if you want a regulated environment, it always will start with you. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it. If you are after some one on one coaching on learning about your nervous system and how to stay more regulated more often, and how to manage your stress, manage your time, manage your energy while putting boundaries in place and adding in that self compassion component, I am your girl. I have one-to-one coaching that I help people with. I call my ABCs to healing. We build that awareness, we build our boundaries, and then we build that compassion. So if that's something you're interested in, I've got a free 30-minute one-to-one free strategy call. If you want to jump on that, jump on my website, www.katiedelamont.com. You can go down to the free discovery call box, book it in, completely free. Just see if I'm a good fit for you, if the program is what you're after. And if you don't want to go that deep with working with me one-to-one, that's cool. Jump on Amazon or anywhere they sell books and buy my book, Trust the Flames, and read all about my wild ride from mindlessness to mindfulness. Till next time.